Congressman. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's been a long day and night. You had called for more time, right, to review the changes in the Senate version of the bill. On Tuesday, you said there's no reason to rush this, to get it done by July 4th. So what changed?
Well, it wasn't my call. So, I felt that there was some big enough changes in the Senate version that if, the president had mentioned maybe pushing that back a bit, some others had mentioned as well taking some more time. But once we got back to Washington, I'll tell you, a lot of work was done in the last several days. And I'll tell you, I give Speaker Mike Johnson just a ton of credit, and also the White House team and the president himself, who really, there's been so many great conversations over the last 3 days working through this. And you know what? While there's some of the changes that we would have liked to have put into the bill, there just wasn't time. And so we've got good dialogue started already that we can work on other legislation and other bills that are going to move through the process to accomplish that. And the president is even talking about doing some of these pieces through executive orders and other means through the administrations.
And I do want to mention that you're a member of the House Freedom Caucus and a self-professed deficit hawk. The bill is expected to add $3.4 trillion to the debt. That's $1 trillion more than the House version did. In your opinion, is this a responsible level of debt for the country?
Well, I don't think we've been at a responsible level for quite some time, for almost a decade, to be honest. And I think that this has been my top priority. I shared that with the White House. I shared that with our leadership. They all agree that this is their a top priority for them. But I also understand, being a businessman, that you have to have a growing economy. And so that's what the big beautiful bill does.
I do want to share with you something that your colleague shared or posted. Representative Thomas Massie, he voted no, saying the bill would, quote, significantly increase U.S. budget deficits in the near term, negatively impacting all Americans through sustained inflation and high interest rates. So is he wrong?
No, he's not wrong. And I would agree that the debt and deficit are too high. But you know what? In this case here, this bill, the big beautiful bill, focuses mostly on our tax policy. If we would have allowed the biggest tax increase in American history to occur at the end of 2025, we would see an economy that would immediately fall into recession. We would see it fall into a slowdown, and there would be less revenue coming in to the U.S. Treasury rather than more.
Let's talk about the Americans that will be affected when it comes to health care by this bill. The bill will cause an estimated 11.8 million Americans to lose their health care. Are you hearing from your constituents who rely on Medicaid, for instance, and what are you telling them?
Well, I think the Democrats have done a good job of scaring a lot of Americans, and including folks in my district that are concerned about it. But I'll tell you what, if you are illegal here in the United States, you should be concerned that you won't be on Medicaid. If you are an able-bodied individual that could work, you're going to need to find another place for insurance.
And you're probably aware of this, but shortly after midnight, President Trump was calling holdout Republicans and posting online. He wrote at one point, "What are the Republicans waiting for? What are you trying to prove? MAGA is not happy and it's costing you votes." When you see something like this, how does it make you feel? Do you feel like there's room in the Republican Party for dissenting opinion?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in fact, I would think there's much more dissenting and differing opinions in the Republican Party than ever in the Democrat Party. In fact, if you look at the two votes that voted against the bill, you have one of our moderates in Mr. Fitzpatrick and one of our conservative libertarians in Mr. Massie. So, those are the two far bookends of the conference. Really, I wish people could actually see the conversations that take place. They're very respectful. Do they get passionate? Of course they do. But I believe that every person in the Republican conference is truly concerned about the future of the country with our debt and deficits, but also they're concerned about their districts and making sure that they represent their districts well and that they are keeping the promises that were made.
We will see how this helps. Thank you so much for your time, Congressman Stutzman. Really appreciate it.